So I want to share how awesome Systematic Avodah Initiative is and why it's worth all the time and effort to make this happen. So Systematic Avodah Initiative is a program that really helps you live with the times. The Alter Rebbe spoke about living with the times, and he was meaning the Parsha, but we also need to live with the times, meaning what's going on around us throughout the year. I remember in previous years, many, many years ago, before we started Systematic Avodah Initiative, that people would come to a test or a Yud Kislev Farbrengen and A, not realize what test or Yud Kislev was all about. B, even if they did realize what it was all about, they would come waiting for the Farbrengener to tell them what actually happened. And so the Farbrengens only reached a certain level because it was kind of like a history lesson. Mm-hmm. So we realized people can get the story, people can get the context, people can understand and grow so much even before the Farbrengen, that by the time they come to the Farbrengen, now the Farbrengen is, how do we apply this into our lives? What lesson can we take? How can we take it and run with it? So this was the birth of the concept of Systematic Avodah Initiative, and how much more so the book that we actually created here at Living Chassidus. This was another one of the incredible projects that Rivka worked on. I still have one. Yoo-hoo! Awesome. So we have this book, and inside the book you'll see there's all the instructions and each of the days of the next 6 weeks. And for each of those, there's 1 page of reading. So if you did your reading, so here we have history of Tes and Yud Kislev. So you got some history. Most of our stuff is very, very well sourced. We have Chabad.org. We have Chassidus Der Hair. We have the Meaningful Life Center. We have compiled absolutely incredible readings for everyone to gain so much knowledge and gain so much perspective of what's happening during this incredible time period of our lives. And when you do your reading, which is one page of reading per day, and as you see in the yellow box in each page, there's an exercise, something to think about, something to ponder, something to bring into your life. If you do so and you do your reading and at least one of those questions into your Living Chassidus notebook at least once a week, then at the next Farbrengen, you have earned yourself an incredible prize. So at today's Farbrengen, we want to gift something that will be an inspiration that will carry you through many, many months. And will not even many months. The lessons gained from this inspiration will hopefully change your life for the good. And we also want to treat a side of your Nefesh Bahamas with something delicious and tasty and healthy. So tonight we've combined a Perspectives magazine, which is particularly topics that we went through in the perspectives that we felt would be relevant and incredible for our times and our members. So we have selected this particular issue, Perspectives number 12, which is from Merkaz Anash, and you get a choice of a delicious Clara bar. So everyone can enjoy. There's different flavors. Cashew cookie or pineapple upside down cake. Oh, I didn't even see that. I thought it was a lemon one I picked up. Anyway, so if you earned your prize, you have absolutely, you deserve a good treat and you can come and pick it up. So the people that earned their prize are Itagravich. We'll start from the top. Esther Citron, Gila Backer, Ariella Zuckerman, Esther Malka Cohen, and Rivka Cohen. Woohoo! If you didn't yet tell me that you earned your prize, let me know and I will fix that. Registration is still available and open, so you guys can obviously still sign up for the program. Ask your mashpia. So registration is still open. You can sign up at livingchassidus.org/SAI, and you can gain so much internally from all your readings and from all the avodah that you work throughout this month. And you will also learn, Be'ezus Hashem, earn some really good prizes. So that is that. Now, I want to give a huge shout out to everyone who helped set up the table and who helped bring everything delicious to the table. But I want to give an extra special shout out to Esther Malka for all her hard work. Every single week she comes, she sets up, she orders the food, she organizes it. She just rocks. We love her. So thank you, Esther Malka. I also want to make a huge shout out to Rita Cohen. She has taken over uploading the videos to YouTube and to all the and to all the podcast platforms. So thank you to her. Tonight's Farbrengen is sponsored for Besuras Teves for Ninel Mazal Bas Larissa Shulamis. And may she always have good and revealed good and brachas and success. And she should just be benched with everything, begashnius, baruchnius, all good and sweet. And a very special thank you to the anonymous donors who donated tonight's event. Hashem should bench them because they have a heart of gold, and Hashem should bench them with just brachas in every way, shape, or form. Aleph ad taf. Just a heads up, our next Farbrengen is Be'ezus Hashem on Monday, and that's Yud Kislev, which is the Rebbe and the Rebbetzins anniversary, and that Farbrengen is actually available for sponsorship. It is a wonderful and auspicious time to sponsor l'schos shidduchim, l'schos getting engaged, l'schos an anniversary, a birthday, an upcoming wedding. It's a wonderful and auspicious time to sponsor an incredible Farbrengen. And not just that, but the recordings also get posted up. And so every person that learns and listens to the recording afterwards will also be doing so in the schos of your sponsorship. And with that, without further ado, let me pass on the mic.
Okay. Hi, it's nice to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. Is this on Zoom?
Yes.
Oh, very nice. Hi. Yes, so I was invited to talk a little bit of my story and to try to connect it with the Mittler Rebbe. Like, and that's kind of challenging. And like how does Chassidus impact a person's life, right? And my son, Baruch Hashem, my son Yosef Yitzhak, he came home with an amazing story of the Mittler Rebbe. And I mean, I don't know much about the Mittler Rebbe. I read the story you sent me. I do have a friend whose husband descends from the Mittler Rebbe. Wow. Or the Maggid, one of the two. Okay. And then my son told me like this, Mommy, you know, the Mittler Rebbe, his liver was totally gone. Like he had a liver failure, but for 2 days, or I forgot exactly how much, but like I think 2 days, for 2 full days, he was alive with a dead liver. And the doctors could not figure out how he was able to be alive. And the doctors were shocked. And then after 2 days, he passed. And I said, but how did he survive then? Was it a miracle? He's like, yeah, it was a miracle. Chassidus kept him alive for 2 days. And then I was thinking about it. Okay. Wow, that's a lot to digest. But I mean, I was like, okay, so how can I how can I talk about it tonight? What does that story mean to me in my personal journey? And how can I inspire everyone else? So I was thinking, there's two aspects to this story. Chassidus enlivens us whether we have a dead liver or not, right? Like Chassidus is our life because Chassidus is the deepest part of Torah. And in the case of the Mittler Rebbe, it happened that it was like for real, like Begashmius, his liver was dead, and Chassidus was able to keep him alive, which means that by him, the unity of Chassidus and his physical body was more evident. It was revealed by him. But by each and every one of us, this connection exists. The question is, how much can we reveal it? How much can we actualize? How much can it be so clear that everyone will see that we lived Chassidus, and this is the name of living Chassidus, and it's so beautiful. So, okay, so that's the initial thought, and I'm gonna try to develop it together with you, okay? Because I didn't fully develop the thoughts. I have the seed of a thought, and hopefully we'll develop it together. Chachma Bina, right? And the Mittler Rebbe was Bina. Alter Rebbe was Chachma. So this is the Chachma, and the Bina we'll try to do together. So I've every Shabbos now I took upon myself to read a little bit of the Orach Chaim HaKadosh. Because last Pesach, I found out that I am related to him. So my son, listen to this, my oldest son, the same one that told me the Torah Mittler Rebbe, he came to me, Mommy, from which tzaddik do we come from? I said, oh, that was Erev Pesach. Okay, 20 minutes of her lighting candles. Oh. Perfect timing. I was in the bathroom. I was like, let me get out of the bathroom for a sec. And then he told me, Mommy, I want to know from which tzaddik do we descend from? I was like, what do you mean? Like Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? And he's like, no, Mommy, from Russia. Like we come from any tzaddik from Russia, like a big chassid. I'm like, not from Russia, because on my side, I mean, on Tati's side maybe, but on my side, we're from Morocco. He's like, but do you know any recent tzaddik from Morocco? Maybe. I'm like, not that I know of. I can research after, but let's get ready to light candles. Okay. Turns out on Chol HaMoed, I was speaking Portuguese to my daughter, and this young girl, like this teenager, comes to me and says, oh, you speak Portuguese? I said, yes. And I said, oh, you're from Brazil? She's like, yeah. I said, what's your grandma's name? What's your family name? I said, Asayag. My grandma's name is Asayag too. So I was like, oh, for sure we're related. They come from the same city. So we're cousins. Yay, we're cousins. I found a cousin in upstate New York. Yay. She came just to babysit, in the program, in the Pesach program. And her family moved to Iowa. Her father is a sheikhet. And I was like, oh, so what's your name? Esther Ben Attar. I was like, what, Ben Attar? That's a beautiful name. She's like, yeah. And Asayag and Ben Attar are cousins, our first cousins. He's like, yeah, Ben Attar means like Ben, son, Attar, crown. And we come from the Orach Chaim HaKadosh. And I'm like, really? She's like, yeah, and you too. I'm like, no way. Then I found out I have like a few cousins who's the one side is a Sayag, the other side is Ben Attar. Like there's many like this. And then I did more in-depth research, and I found out a relative that was born in the same city of the Orach Chaim. His name was Yehuda Lion Ben Attar. And he was born a year apart from the Orach Chaim Saleh in Morocco. So very likely we're related. But I mean, Ben Attar, same city of the Orach Chaim, whatever. So I was like, okay. So I was like, Yosef, I guess we're related to the Orach Chaim, I guess. Like, we have a cousin here. And the whole Pesach, he was so excited. He was so happy. Wow. And then I found out that by Seudas Mashiach, it's customary to say the story of the Orach Chaim and the Baal Shem Tov, how they almost met and they wanted to meet each other. And it's so funny that I found out on Pesach. It's whatever. So, okay, to make a long story short, I was reading. I bought a set of the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, And I was reading that 2 weeks ago, Parshas Chai Sarah, it talks about the death of Sarah Imenu. And it says, and she died in Kriyas Arba, he Chivrain. And Raham asks, what's the relevance of knowing the exact location and specifying, Kriyas Arba, which is actually Chivrain, and then it says Be'eretz Canaan, in the land of Canaan. What's the relevance of like saying the exact location of her death? GPS. What does it matter? What's the relevance? So the Raham says there's a lesson for us in this. Kriyas Arba means the city of 4, which is the 4 elements: water, fire, air, and earth. And that represents Sarah Imenu's body. So the body is made of 4 elements, right? And then it says, he Chevroin. Chevroin comes from the word chibur, which is connection. So the Raham says, the pasuk is saying that Sarah Imenu's body is still connected to her soul. He says, Haz v'shalom, we can't say that Sarah Imenu passed. That's his words, I'm not saying it. He said, Haz v'shalom, we cannot say Sarah Imenu died because her body is still connected to her soul. Her body is not fully deprived of life. And then Be'eretz Canaan, how did she achieve that? Eretz Canaan represents the Yetzer Hara. When we overcome the Yetzer Hara, we achieve the connection of body and soul, which makes our bodies eternal, which means our bodies are still full of life, even after death, whatever that means. It doesn't mean our body is not alive. It means something else. It means disconnection, but in her case, it did not fully manifest because of the fact that she was a Merkava Tzadekis, and she did not give in to the Yetzer Hara, whatever that means for her, right? Because we know that Tzadikim are like us, we are like them. So Tzadikim, we might look on the surface, they're human, we're human, right? Yeah, but really they are a Merkava. They are completely nullified to Hashem. And what I mean by they're not like us, we're like them, but that not always we accomplish being nullified, right? Because we have Yetzer Hara, but we have the potential to be fully nullified. So we are like them in the sense that we can also be Merkavas. We can also completely nullify ourselves to Hashem and overcome our Yetzer Hara. And then it comes the question, how can I absorb Chassidus, absorb Torah, right? And overcome the Yetzer Hara in a way that I'm completely unified with my soul, like the body and soul are completely unified. Okay? Chassidus talks a lot about this. How can I accomplish overcoming the Yetzer Hara? What does it mean to overcome the Yetzer Hara? One perspective, one approach that I've been thinking about recently, because I teach in Portuguese the 12 that book by Sterna Ginsburg, Your Awesome Self, that talks about the 12 pasukim. I'm up to the 5th pasuk, which is Kol Yisrael Yisrael. No, it's the 4th, the 5th. What's the 5th? Nava hine Tikare. So it says Kikare v'lecha davar me'od. And so she explains in this book, and I guess it's according to what the Rebbe explains. I'm sorry, I'm looking down. It's hard for me to look at the camera. I'm looking at the people. I'm sorry, everyone here. It's hard for me.
The Zoom people are used to it.
Okay. And in this book, she talks about how, like the body has a defense mechanism, right? That if the body senses a danger, what does it do? It goes on fight, flight, or freeze, right? The 3 defense mechanisms of the body. And the soul also has a defense mechanism. The soul, when it senses danger, it also it defends itself and expresses itself. But she says, how can it be then that there are threats that the soul, or that we totally don't pay attention to? How come we're not fully immune to all the threats? We're not always grasping the tricks of the Yetzer Hara. How can we fall for such seemingly obvious mistakes? But for us, it's not obvious. We feel completely, we don't perceive a threat sometimes with the Yetzer Hara. And she's like, a toddler, when he runs to the street, right? Why does it run to the street? Why the toddler is not on fight or flight mode? Because he's not developed yet. So part of the development is to understand, is cognitive development, right? The toddler does not understand that what a car does when it runs over someone's body. So it lacks understanding. So she says, one of the reasons is because we can be, spiritually speaking, on toddler stage in certain areas of Avodas Hashem. And that's why we don't perceive threats sometimes. We don't perceive spiritual threats. We don't perceive that this is the Yetzer Hara trying to convince me of something. We think it's us. We fool ourselves. We delude ourselves. And then she talks about delusion. She says that to make this book, she consulted with Rabbi Twersky. And Rabbi Twersky said that she mentioned to him, like, it's so hard that people don't believe they can change. They don't believe it's possible to change. And he's like, of course, because delusion is much more powerful than truth. And she's like, what? He's like, yeah, it's true that truth is more powerful. But in practical terms, if a person decides to tell a story to themselves and to delude themselves, a psychiatrist cannot help. And then he made an experiment to show the doctors how delusion is powerful. He took two nurses, they were close friends. He hypnotized one of them. Her name was Carol. The other name was Betty. So Carol was hypnotized, and he put an empty chair next to Carol. And he said, so this is Betty. You can talk to her. And she started talking to an empty chair. And then people were like shocked. The doctors were like, what's going on? She was telling her all the stories, everything she was going to do at night or not. I'm going to cook this, we're going to eat that, tomorrow I'm going to do this and that. And it was an empty chair. And then what did he do? He took another chair. He put the real Betty right next to her on the other chair and said, now turn around. She turned around and she saw the real Betty. And she was shocked. And she was like, how can this be? She looks just like the real Betty. And he's like, but who do you think is the real Betty? And she pointed to the empty chair. So the power of delusion, of illusion. Now, we think this world is real. We really do. And it's an illusion. It's olam sheker, Chaz v'shalom, to say that Sarah Imeinu died. It's an illusion. It's not true. And that's Yoreh Chaim saying, okay, just saying, and I didn't make this up. Right? I'm not delusional, but how do I know? Because Yoreh Chaim said. So how do we get ourselves out of our delusions? How do we identify what's a delusion, what's not? And I guess that's the trick to overcoming the Yetzer Hara, which is the trick to connecting body and soul, which is the trick of the Mittler Rebbe and the liver. Okay, that's how I'm connecting everything.
Love that. That was great.
It's gymnastics over here. No, because I believe everything is possible. Hashgacha pratis, she invited me to talk about the Mittler Rebbe. And I was like, all I know of the Mittler Rebbe is this story about the liver. So that's what has to connect somehow. And it does, right? So, okay. So now delusions. That's where we're up to. Delusions. How do we get rid of our delusions? I'm going to tell a story. I think is the first step of getting rid of delusions. That's my opinion. I don't know. You're gonna tell me if I'm wrong or right. Anyone can help me out, okay? After this, we can have discussions, okay? There's a story that I told my kids these days because it's a very interesting story. I love Mamlays, I love Navi. So the way did you introduce me as someone who loves Navi?
She loves Navi.
I love Navi. She's like, how do I introduce you? Say, a mother of three, I love parenting, I love Chassidus, and I love Navi. So, l'chaim for that. Ooh, careful, careful, careful.
I'm a Farbrengen.
Nothing to worry about it.
Yeah, delusion. We think things and people have power. That's the delusion. Okay, but anyways, so fine. So the story is like this. There was a rabbi who was very, very holy, very big tzaddik, and he was studying Torah the whole day. And he was also very good looking. The Yetzer Hara was jealous of him. And there's a name for him. I forgot his name, but I can consult. Yeah, he was jealous. Because Yetzer Hara's jealousy is jealousy. He's a big glove of jealousy. He's like everything that's negative, Yetzer Hara embodies it. So, like, I'm jealous. I want to test him. I want him to fall. I want him to sin. And he said, Hashem, can I please test him? And Hashem said, you can try, but I know my son. My son, he's gonna succeed. You can try. Go ahead. I told you this story, right? My son, I know him. Go ahead, try him. Good luck. So he went and he pretended to be a beautiful woman. Not sneerstic. And then the rabbi was learning Torah. All of a sudden he sees a gorgeous, like, not sneerstic woman. And he was like, whoops. He came back to learning. He was like, that was so weird. What is she doing here in shul? So fine. And then he would stand up and wash his hands. There she was. And he realized she was not a human being. He realized it was something weird. And so what did he do? He took a knife and he poked both of his eyes. I know. Guys, relax. He's fine.
Yeah, really.
No, it's not a So he was like, no, what a sec. Right? So he poked his own eyes. The Tzara was like shocked. He came back to Hashem and said, I tried. He's like, I told you. And then he sent Malach Gavriel to Raphael to heal him. And Malach Raphael, and what did he do? Get away. No, you're not touching me. I'm not getting healed. Get away. And then he went back to Hashem and said, Hashem, what's going on? He said, he doesn't let me touch him and heal him. What do I do? And Hashem said, no. And then he said, go back and insist. And Malach Raphael came back and said, Hashem told me to insist. He's like, only if Hashem promises, he's not going to allow the Yetzer Hara to test me again. And so Malach Raphael came up and said, that's what he said. Say, okay, I'm not allowing the Yetzer Hara to test him anymore. I'm back. And then he allowed himself to be healed. And that's the story. So it's a medrash, if I'm not mistaken. And it's there's two stories, right? One of someone who was not gaivadik and thought that just because he's a tzaddik, he's immune. Because as long as a person is in a body, there are pitfalls, there are tests. This world is not fully pure. There's impurity. As we know very well, just by reading the news, we can know it's a fact, and so there's challenges, there's negativity, and there's the Yetzer Hara. So we have to be aware that we have to question, is this real or is it not? And that's what he did. He was like, is she real? No, she's not real. So I think the first step to overcoming delusion is accepting that delusion exists. That's the first step. I don't know the second step. Anybody has any ideas? I don't know. What comes after accepting there's delusion? I guess the second step is
Acceptance. And it's not real. It could exist, but it's not real.
I mean, but you want to go back to this analogy or this medrash,
that's Farbrengen.
right?
Yeah.
I'm saying, well, even though it wasn't real,
Mhm.
he still wasn't willing to be healed because there's a certain element of realness to it, right? If it was such a delusion, or if it wasn't so, if it was so not real, then why was he so unwilling to be healed?
What's real is the fact that he can
That's good. It's real
not
to you.
control himself and not
And that's
resist
real to him.
temptation.
Well, that's real to him.
It's
Because
real
at
that
least in the
that there's
conversation of
a
perception versus reality.
right.
What's real and what's your perception? Back to Isaiah versus perception. Back to the muscle you gave of his Betty sitting in chair. The person talking to an empty chair. She's
Mhm.
talking to someone. She's talking full on.
Yeah.
Meaning to her real. Like this person in her in outside being delusional or outside of being hypnotized, she wouldn't talk to her, right? Because she's in touch with reality, with the objective reality that it's an empty chair. But in this moment, or back to this guy, like in this moment, as much as he knows it's a mirage of some sort, I hate her trying to flaunt him as a woman, it's real. It's a real experience. So how do you, more than just recognizing that it's not like there's not substance to it, but there is substance to it. So how do you like differentiate that?
I think it doesn't have to continue. Once you realize it's not real,
Well, then
you don't have to continue.
Well, then why did he, like, back to this analogy and back to this whole thought for us? Just because we can recognize that, yeah, we have Yetzer Hara and there's elements of this world that's not real, right? Like this whole world's an illusion. How do you like take the knowledge and make that in like a consistent in your life?
Right. It's not real in a sense that it's the opposite of Hashem. The only reality is Hashem. The only thing
Right.
that's real, it's something that doesn't die.
God gave force to that though.
Evil will die. Like, but die meaning not like Sarah Imenu. Die like stop existing. It'll become nothingness, how it was in the beginning, before Hashem created evil. So we are not, Kedusha is not going to die ever. It's eternal because I'm learning a mimer, Rashis Goyim Malik, and it says in the mimer, the difference between klipa, right, between the opposite of kedusha and kedusha. On the one hand, the tahara seems very strong because it's real. Like it wakes up before me, it puts me in a bad mood, right? It's real. It's strong. Strong. That's the word. It's strong, but isn't real. It's a difference.
Right.
It's strong, but isn't real. Why? Because it doesn't have absolute existence. Meaning its existence has a deadline.
Right.
Right?
I feel like also that tying it in kind of that once we're aware it exists, right? Whatever the test is, the woman when he's trying to learn, let's say, and it's distracting him. It's so real in the moment. But once you're aware that, oh, it's just the Sahara, it's just going to disappear.
That is
because evil, like you said, it's just going to disappear. But it's real until you know that you can identify what it is. So like that reminds me of the story of Avram on the way to do the Akedah, that the Satan came like a river. It was a real river. But as soon as he realized it's stopping him from doing something good, it just disappeared.
exactly. Yes. I guess accepting the truth because the contrast to this story is someone who did not take the Tahara so seriously, in a sense that he did not understand the strength of the Tahara. The fact that it's not real doesn't mean it's not strong. It's strong, but its strength, it's dependent on how much we allow it. But the real strong ones are us, is the kedusha, because its strength is conditional, right? So, what I was saying. Oh, no, okay. So delusion. It's talking like I was thinking about this week, that we have to identify what are the voices in our mind that are not real, that are strong but not real. We tend to associate strength with reality, right? If I feel strong about something, it must be real, and not really. So I guess the work is to identify what is the delusion, because like Dr. Twersky said, once there's a delusion, only the person herself can take herself out of it. No psychiatrist can do that for you. And there's like letters of the rabbi saying this, like you can consult with a psychiatrist, like a friend, for help. He's knowledgeable. He can give you guidance, but he's not going to take you out of your own mitzrayim, of your own delusion. You have to do that for yourself, because Hashem gave you free will to change your life, to choose in your own Dalet Amais. I can choose for her. I can choose for anyone else. Only you have the power. The power of choice means the power of choice in your own life. You can choose for other people. So identifying what are the voices that are lying to me, that are annoying me, bothering me, causing pain, but they're false. And that the Frierdiker Rebbe talks in this Maimer, Reishis Bei Mamolik. He says how the Yetzer Hara is strong because its source is makif. But makif, it's the kedusha doesn't penetrate in it, so it's really a non-existence. It's like an empty sack. It's big, but it's empty at the same time. There's nothing to it. There's nothing, absolutely nothing to it. It's a matter of unplugging. I made a mashal in my head to understand that. I was like, it's like a toy that doesn't have batteries inside. It only stays on if it's plugged into the source. If you unplug it, and Hashem can unplug it any minute, then it doesn't work. It stops, in the case of the guitar, it stops existing. That's why it's an illusion. But yeah, so how to live with Chassidus, right? That's the theme. How can we make a decision and stick to it, to not allow the Yetzer Hara to dominate our lives? The fear, the anxiety, the anger, all the negativity. How can we make it stop?
I don't think there's like a quick answer to that.
There's not one answer.
It's like, it's a constant, forget day by day, it's a constant, like, 10 minutes by 10 minutes by 10 minutes. Yeah. If you're lucky. And it's not
Minute by minute.
Minute by minute.
Yeah. So I was talking about identifying delusion. There's also thinking, right? There's I heard I love Rabbi Tab. I heard in Rabbi Tab's one of his shiurim that a chassid came to the Rebbe Rashab, if I'm not mistaken, and asked him, like, so I have this and this avera. What's my tikkun? He's like 610 fasts. And he was like, you want me to die? He's like, no, that's not food fasts. Fasts meaning 15 minutes of thinking about who you are, thinking about you, your life. And I'm suggesting thinking about what thoughts were delusional thoughts that I had throughout the day, what narratives did I create, and which ones are true.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I've thought about this before, that not necessarily is it that it's always like the Yetzer Hara is in your head, and like every thought you think of that's negative is like the Yetzer Hara.
Ah.
Like it could be
Okay.
there's like other things that like let's say someone told you like, oh yeah, this is true, and like let's say they were joking, whatever, and then you grew up and you're like, oh, that's not true at all. Like I'm saying that's like something light, but like let's say something serious, someone actually lies to you and teaches you something incorrectly on purpose for whatever reason. You could think that that's true, but it's not. And so like you could have like false perceptions in your head, and not necessarily is it, oh, it's the Yetzer Hara. It could be so many other things as well. So how do you know when it's the Yetzer Hara? How do you know if it's something else?
Beautiful question. It could be, yeah, I guess childhood is a big trap, you know.
More into it, I guess.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
No, it's true. You're right. No, because what she basically is saying is like, okay, there's stuff that I was taught when I was a child and they were not true, and now I'm miserable because of those lies that I was taught as a child, or because of my childish perspective on things. And like, right, so
Just be the Yetzer Hara.
so
It could be, but it could not. That's what I'm saying.
it could be also yeah, it's limiting beliefs. The Yetzer Hara comes also disguised in childhood traumas. You know what I mean? I'm saying like, oh no, I'm cute. I'm your childhood trauma, and I'm cute. I'm harmless. I'm here. Cuddle with me, you know.
I think there's also that
There's many
aspect of,
clothing.
regardless of where it comes from,
Mhm.
we could still use the same tools to recenter ourselves.
Mhm.
Like even if it's a misguided belief that's not necessarily quote unquote Yetzer Hara or not, I think the same tools of how we treat the Yetzer Hara's attempts could still be used for that misguided belief. Like this is also a mirage. This is also a deceitful image that's not true. And we could also, even if it's not, oh, the Yetzer Hara is trying to get me, but the same tools work, in my opinion.
The Yetzer Hara has many ways. I say the Yetzer Hara, but you can say like limiting beliefs. Anything that drags us down is what I'm calling the Yetzer Hara. Anything that stops us from growing, stops us from connecting, stops us from believing in ourselves and our true potential, getting out of our own limitations and growing. And if something paralyzes us, that's Yetzer Hara. Like anything that in any shape or form, because it can come as a beautiful woman, it can come as but this is how I grew up doing. How am I going to change it? This is how I grew up. It can come in so many ways. Like she's saying, it's still the same tools. It's like identifying and questioning it, challenging it. Right. Identifying is not enough, but it's a huge step.
No, I can recognize, okay, I have these preconceived notions or whatever you're saying.
Identifying is not enough.
Not enough.
You're right.
Okay, yeah, I have these childhood traumas. Now what?
Now what? Make a choice.
And I have Chassidus in my life, and how do you merge that?
That's the
or not merge that, rather.
How do you live with both of them together?
They don't have to live with both of them. Can't live at the same time. Can they both expose this? We want that.
This is meant to not enliven. It's meant to bring light.
Yeah.
Enlighten is the word you're looking for.
I know, but it's not really because it's
not.
I don't know.
But I understand. Bring my talent.
Is meant to give the clarity, as we're seeing now, of the tools how to come out from that.
Right.
That's what it's. So this is not a separate
entity from.
It's what's going to give you the tools to come out of it in a healthy, begashmis and brokenness way.
Right. Right. I think part of it, like, okay, so we talked about a few things, right? Understanding there is delusion, identifying it, thinking about it. Thinking is very important. Understanding.
Wait,
where is the misconception?
What if my brain is made to her?
What do you mean?
Overthinking, questioning everything, not.
So I think you need an anchor, and that anchor is usually a mishpia.
Right.
Because sometimes you need something to help you
to ground.
Exactly.
To ground
you from either side.
Yeah.
Not to go too far.
I just gave you food for thought. I'm not giving you final solutions. It's just thoughts that I've been thinking this week. And because I teach also this book, Hikara Velecha, it's something that's very close and possible. It's doable. It's not like, oh, it's like not, it's very close to you in a sense that your soul is always with you. It's wherever you go. So it can break through. But part of it is identifying it's like teaching yourself also, the same way you teach a toddler. We were talking about development. The reason why a toddler crosses the street with no fear at all, doesn't bring any alarms, because the toddler doesn't know. If we don't know what's pulling us back, what's holding us down, then we can't, wait a second, there can't be any alarm, anything ringing, because we don't know what's dangerous in terms of spiritually dangerous, and we don't know what's not. She said, like, every time we cross the streets, crossing the streets is the metaphor for a decision we make. Where is this decision taking us? Are we going in a dangerous crossroad, or are we going on a safe path? And I'm saying, choosing 10 minutes, like, we make decisions all the time, decisions of what to say, what not to say, what to eat, what not to eat, to talk, to do, what to share, what not to share. And like, we make all micro decisions throughout the day, and every single decision we make, as small as it seems, is like crossing. We're always like crossing the street. And sometimes we are toddlers in a certain area, and we don't understand what's so bad about screaming at my 6-year-old. So I'm human, right? I'm human after all. And that's the delusion, right? The delusion is, because I'm human, all my negative actions are justified. And she says, like, that's her words in the book. It says like this: I don't have, meaning, acknowledging my humanity does not mean being limited by it. Acknowledging my humanity does not mean that I have to be limited by it. I can acknowledge my humanness, my humanity, and I can still act beyond it with my soul, which is higher than my human limitedness. And so we think, oh no, but I'm only human. No, yes, you are. It's true. That doesn't mean you can't act beyond your humanity. And when we do that, we connect our body and soul. And we add an element of infinity to our human existence. Yeah, we are more powerful and bigger than what we think. The things that we sometimes think are powerful and big are really not. They're nothing. And we think to ourselves as, oh, we're only human, we can't do this. Yes, we can. It's the opposite. That's the delusion. So yeah, is that good enough?
Yeah.
Is it good?
I think
Is it good?
good?
I don't know, just
Story.
I'm trying to make sense here with my.
It makes sense.
I'm making sense.
Yeah, beautiful.
I think it would be cool to like share parts of the story if you offer that. I think everyone.
Yeah.
would
Like it. It's really like I never heard it before, but it really sounds good.
Yeah. Okay,
You're
good.
slowly fleshing out a concept, and it's very good.
I'm developing as I say. Like it's not fully mature. I'm good. I'm happy. Yay. The Middler Rebbe after all.
I don't
Yeah.
even know about the Nava Rebbe.
So you missed the part that I said, the story that my son told me. He came home like super excited. Like, mommy, Yosef Yitzhak.
Oh,
She babysat them. He said, like, the Mitler Bemami, for 2 days, he had a liver failure. His liver was dead, and he was still alive for 2 days without a liver. The doctor said, how come he's alive? That makes no sense. And then I said, how did he stay alive? Yosef, Hashem made a miracle. He's like, no, Chassidus kept him alive. Chassidus kept him alive. Yeah, and so Chassidus keeps us alive because it gives this infinity to the finite human existence. It's not that it keeps us alive. It is life. It is real life. The limited human experiences is an illusion. It's a temporary situation. It's like, we're spiritual. Are we? Rabbi Taub always says this. Are we human beings having a spiritual experience, or are we spiritual beings having a human experience? Which one of the two is the defining factor? So the truth is that the reality is that we're spiritual beings and we're having a human experience. And humanity does not define us. We can go. True humanity actually is this transcendence within within the finite world. That's true humanity. Fake humanity is like, yeah, we're stuck here. Like, there's nothing. We're stuck with our humanity. We can't act beyond our animalistic instincts and our impulses. That's fake humanity. True humanity is this paradox. Yes, I have a Torah, like I have a tendency to sometimes act, angry, or that doesn't define me. I am way bigger than that, not in terms of the ego. I'm bigger in terms of I have an unlimited soul, and those instincts, those negative things that pop in my mind, and those impulses do not define me. And it's just when we understand that the delusion is that we think it defines us, then we can, okay, I got this. I can be a mensch regardless of the circumstances. I can act with dignity and patience and like royalty. Like, I can be a true mensch despite the circumstances, despite what this person said, what that person said, what this happened, that happened. I can still remain true to my real identity, which is my soul, nothing else. L'chaim to that. Yeah.
Thank you
So
so much.